Alright, got a quick mini guide for the Kinetic Blast Wander champion with Beacon of Madness. Basically, the way the build works, Kinetic Blast of Clustering is our main skill. We get damage from scaling some mana. And then we also are running Beacon of Madness, which gives us a ton of fortification stacks and some double damage. So when I turn them on, you can see I have 41 fortification stacks, which combined with champion is extremely powerful. Like this node right now is giving a total of 63% more armor and evasion and 63% increased attack speed. And I'm also running Farrul with 2 of its nodes for the rest of the Ascendancy. And then the way we're managing these debuffs is through stacking a lot of faster expiration of debuffs. I have some on Amulet. I have a bunch on different spots on my tree, here, Runegraft. Temporal Rift super juiced up with quality from an enhance for a total of 240% faster expiration with there's a breakpoint at 234, and we need pretty much all of it to minimize the number of stacks of debuffs. Of the debuffs, one makes you slowed, which doesn't matter most of the time because the Feral Ascendancy is giving us a Spectre aura that has action speed slow immunity. Unfortunately, the AoE radius on this aura kind of sucks. I do have automated convocation, so if I'm in an actual zone, the turtle, which is a very, very slow minion, I could have had a faster one, but I had a faster one. It didn't really make that much of a difference. Once I'm in place fighting things, you know, it'll get up pretty quick, but when I'm moving around a lot, it actually drops off pretty frequently. But I really haven't even really noticed being slowed, and I'm sure it stacks up occasionally pretty high. So it seems fine. Another debuff is you get less flash charges and your flasks have reduced effect, not a huge deal. Another debuff is reduced life recovery rate. This one is kind of worrying if it's stacked really, really high, and then the last one is increased damage taken, and this one is definitely worrying if it's stacked really, really high right when you took a big chunk of damage. But they barely ever do stack very high, and if you did pay attention and you want to, you can fix it by either just turning the skill off, but that gives it a cooldown before you can turn it back on, or you can take the boots off. Cheeky way to do it, which is actually a good example right now. I had 5 stacks. I can open the passive tree, pauses my game, then open my inventory, take the boots off. Now the stacks are gone and I can immediately turn it back on. In reality, playing with this for I think 7 or 8 hours yesterday with the boot setup, I unequipped them twice, and once was pretty quickly after I got them, just to kind of show that it worked, and I don't even think I really needed to. There was one time when I was in a map and I glanced over and noticed I had like 6 or 7 stacks of damage taken, and it would have almost certainly been fine because it's only going to matter if I have those stacks and I get hit really hard at the same time. Yeah, for the most part, and especially if you were in softcore, you can kind of just ignore it. The rest of the characters actually, like, or the whole character really is like pretty budget, which is interesting. Like, I think the cost of the character relative to the performance, especially with the beacon now, has been like pretty solid for a hardcore viable wander. But the one thing that's kind of holding it back from there is I've looked into a few ways to maybe take it to the next level of scaling it up with higher investment, and everything I look at, the payoffs aren't very good for how much you would be spending. So that's like kind of a future thing I need to work on some more, is either find a way that does become worth it. There could be an area where, or an avenue of like dropping mana scaling and getting some other flat damage. But as it stands currently, it almost looks like it might just get topped off as like a relatively cheap build that performs pretty well for the cost, but is tough to like properly scale into like doing things like super juice T17s and uber boss farming and stuff for hardcore specifically. But right now I've just been blasting through T16s. I'm gonna put one in right now and see how it goes. But I think this is like kind of where it just is the most comfortable. You have enough damage to do everything in here just fine. I want to try doing some destructive play Maven Atlas farming. That's going to be my next Atlas farm I'm going to try. Especially because I think when there's the multiple bosses from Maven, damage should basically just go up because of how Kinetic Blast works. And since we can also move around like really quickly with lightning warp, which is also a pretty pleasant surprise for the build. Lightning warp does really well, even though I have 0 support gems, which was good because my socket space was like a disaster when I realized I wanted the automated convocation. So I was able to drop a faster attack shield charge and drop a frost blink and just replace all of that with 1 lightning warp with no support gems, and it's still like pretty much instant. That's cool. And then the build itself playing in maps is like pretty basic. I'm just warping and hitting my KB. I don't really have any other buttons to press unless I want to drop a wall or if I want to press like my Vol Molten Shell. It's pretty much just hop around and blast everything. One other kind of issue with the setup currently is I had to drop my Brine King Pantheon to get Aracali because that's where we're getting some of our faster debuff expiration. Which the freeze, I don't have freeze immunity from Brine King anymore, but that's not a huge deal because again, whenever the turtle gets near me, I'll be effectively freeze immune. I haven't noticed any freezes. But also, I've lost stun immunity. But after mapping for, again, like 6 or 7 or 8 hours, I don't remember exactly how long I had the boots on, it hasn't been a problem. Like, I haven't even noticed getting stunned a single time, so I guess, I don't know, at least for maps, it's been fine. Again, maybe if you tried to bring it into more juiced content, it would become more of an issue. The other thing is, I don't know if there's really a good way to solve the stun on the character other than using the immutable force, I think it's called, the unique jewel, where you just get like a ton of stun recovery, which is a fine way to deal with stun, but I think that might be like the only option if it did become a proper concern. I'm gonna skip the breach, you know. I'm gonna do the breach so that I can do the Legion without a giant breach in the way. The Legion is another thing that it's pretty good for, being a like big AoE spam clear ability and whatnot. Seems pretty good for Legion farming. Obviously, if you had things like Inspired Learnings, especially if there's a Falborn one, that works when you have 0 notables in range, and I could put it on. They're really expensive and they almost don't exist in hardcore though. But if I had it, it would work, and you could get that mod, and then like realistically, you could drop Perseverance for a Headhunter if you really wanted to go crazy Legion stuff. Resistant. Maybe not the best showing on the Legion. I was pretty bad at clearing and some resistant mobs, but I mean, just kill all the mobs, right? And because of the way that kinetic blast of clustering works when you have the spell slinger with a tornado, you constantly spawn these tornadoes right in front of your face, which then immediately get hit by your KB, which causes it to fork, which kind of means you don't really need to aim because stuff just goes off in every direction anyway, which is not ideal when you're trying to like pinpoint a specific enemy for some damage while you're clearing. Like, you need to hit this exact spot and then it's kind of hard to, but it does mean that like just general mapping and clearing is extremely brain off because again, you don't need to aim. You get both sides of it. You can't aim if you wanted to, but you don't need to anyway, for the most part. Anyway, that's a build. Gear again. Gloves, chest, helmet are pretty much just rares with, you know, good defense stats, some life. Helmet and gloves, you kind of want open prefix to craft mana. Suppression if you can, res as much as you can get. Need one unset ring to run all the gems that I currently have. Otherwise, if you didn't have one, I don't even know what you would drop other than cast one damage taken off of the molten shell. But really, I just want to get one unset. Um, there's a lot of really good like high res jewelry with this league because of breach spawning them. And then shield I have currently just my helmet and shield are pretty bad. These were just super budget items that I grabbed to get the setup rolling. Ideally, this will be like a spirit shield eventually, because I can get a big spell damage roll, and spell damage is huge damage boost for us. And it I think has to get multi-modded so that I can get. I need the +2 support gems on shield, and then I would probably need 10 suppression craft to max out suppression. We'll see, but I think that has to get multi-modded. But so I needed that, and then just a better helmet with like suppression and some better stats in general. Wand, you pretty much prio spell damage and then attack speed and crit, and then probably mana. If you can get a fizz roll, especially if you can get a fizz roll like the unveil with impale, is really good. If you started from a fractured attack speed or crit chance base, it's probably not too bad to get with essences and like failed stuff. I am missing the impale here, but I was actually able to make up all the impale that I was missing with a really good impaling graft, which goes nicely with rage on hit gloves so that you proc the buff. And one thing I didn't really mention, but was happening, the buff here, so it gives you a bunch of impale damage, 30% chance to inflict additional impale, that's basically double impale damage, and then a little bit of impale effect. Not double impale, it's 30% more impale damage for being able to inflict extras, because there's not a cap on impales, they just how many you can put on before they get consumed. But this one was actually pretty cheap because not a lot of people are using this one, I guess. It's 4 really good rolls. But if you get it with CDR and skill duration, and then you have to run Runegraft of the Warp on this build anyway for the faster debuff, this buff effect that's boosting my impale is actually 100% uptime. As long as I'm hitting things and I have, you know, more than one rage. So that's really good. Like, it's not the craziest buff. I think I POB'd it at like 22% more damage for having the buff up, but it's just always up. So I just do 22% more damage, which is pretty dope. And then the passive tree, the passive tree is like tough because there's things I want like more jewel sockets, but it's just so stretched thin on points. We're going down here. Damage stuff right here and here is like Fizz Ignore, really good. This is one of our only options for getting our accuracy. Fortify over here. Starting to get the suppression stuff over here. I need to get the mastery and mage bane next. We need the reduced duration for the notable and the mastery. And then we're just traveling up, getting mana and life. Mana and life. We have Iron Will, Iron Grip, MOM, witch stuff for mana and life, mana and life. These wand nodes. And then this like giant wand wheel, which this part is really cursed and the source of my headaches of trying to figure out how to optimize the build for like higher investment. 4 travel points to get to 1 damage wheel feels really bad. But this wheel just gives so much value that I just haven't been able to find a like actually good way to get rid of it. Like I drop all these points, I put like a unique jewel here, a super lethal pride here. Damage doesn't even go up. I drop it, I put like a really good cluster jewel setup with like multiple crit mediums and stuff. Damage doesn't even go up. It's like, this looks super cursed. I feel like it is cursed and there's got to be something to do there. But everything I've tried so far, I just don't even really gain damage. These nodes are just like too valuable. It's mostly because, not that the nodes are like super insane, they are really good. Like ton of accuracy and attack speed, huge crit node. There just isn't other options for the other accuracy we need for the build. There's just not somewhere else to grab it, and then like the crit chance especially, and then a little bit of crit multi obviously. Again, there's just nowhere else nearby to grab any of it that makes it like more point cost effective. So is what it is. Just kind of rolling with it for now. I might just keep this character at relatively low budget. I'll have like some really nice rares because you can spit them out pretty damn easily. But I think I could like finish off this character with, you know, other than like a, you know, 6-link chest. This chest is actually particularly really good, but like every other item slot being like 1 to 2 div max, and a lot of them being, you know, half a div or less. And I could probably do that and then just be super comfortably just blasting whatever T16 shenanigans I want as I like farm up for next build reroll, whatever that's gonna be. Yeah, just wanted to put that one out there to show the beacon stuff. It does work. Beacon good. Um, the only gripe with the beacon setup that we had planned prior to League is the aura from this Farrul node is just way too small. I don't even know why it's an aura. Like the other node over here just gives you the buff, but then this one's like a tiny aura that you have to be next to your Spectre at all times, or else you just don't get it. It's it's unfortunate, but the setup is still working and it's working pretty damn well. So we're just rolling with it. And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. See ya.